This is Chapter 6, Section 2, Story Problems. These are the word problems at the end of Section 2. I wanted to just kind of do a couple of those with you, as they can be a little tricky. Number 32 is the first one I thought I'd demonstrate. It says, what is the sales tax rate in a state where the tax on the purchase of $464 is $25.52? So basically we're looking at the setup where we're looking for a rate. We have the percentage or the part. We're looking for the base. Okay, so as we're plugging in our information here, then here's the part. So the 25.52, the base, or the whole thing. Base is really that whole thing, remember. 464, that's going to go on the bottom. And so this is just a division problem. Top divided by the bottom. Calculator is fine. So when we plug that in, we're going to get 0.055. Well, they want to know what the tax rate is. Well, that's the percent, so we need to change that. Excuse me, that's the decimal, so we need to change it to a percent. So we do that by moving it over 2. So we would have 5.5% is our sales tax rate for that particular problem. So is it just going slow, reading through the information and plugging into the type of problem you need? Second example says if Rob Winter, real estate agent, earned 6.5% commission on a sale of property valued at $210,000, what was his commission? Okay, well, this is a straight looking for the part. So we're setting up the portion. I call it the part. I interchange those. We're timesing the rate, timesing the base. So the relevant information here is going to be that 6.5% and the $210,000. So we put 6.5% in here and the $210,000. Well, we can't do the problem and still going to multiply those. We still can't do the problem without changing the information just a little bit. So the 0.5% is going to need to go to 6.5. Okay, and we're going to need then to change that to a true decimal because that's still a percent. So that's going to be 0.065. Remember, because we're going to move it over 2. Didn't do anything with this. We're just going to drop it down to the next step of the problem, and then we're going to multiply. So we multiply straight through. We're going to get, again, just Fine's calculator, $13,650. That'd be really nice if, as an agent, they got all of that, but it's divided up between the listing agent, the selling agent, the broker, the title company. So he may get $3,000 or $4,000 out of that, but that's still not bad. If you sell about one house a month, you make a pretty good living. Okay, let's look at number 40. It says quality control process finds 17.2 defects for every 8,600 units of production. Okay, so that's going to be a rate. We're looking for the rate. It says what is the percent of production is defective. So we're looking for a rate. And that formula, as you remember, is going to be the portion over the base. So the portion is the 17.2, and the base then, of course, is the 8,600. So it's just taking the relevant information in the problem and plugging it in to an equation. So we're going to go ahead and just divide the top by the bottom. Again, it's calculator. So we get 0.002, and they're going to want that as a percent because it says what percent of the production is defective. So we change that back, remember, by moving it 2 spots to the left. So we would have then 0.2% is defective. Sometimes you'll see that with a 0.2 or 0.2. Either one is the same. It could just be listed as 0.2%. Okay, let's take a look at one more. I like this one because it's kind of a real world for college students. It says Elwood attends a college that charges $1,400 tuition per semester for 12 credits. Tuition is raised by 9% next year. How much will he pay for 2 semesters if he's taking the same course load? All right, so basically what we're doing here is that we're going to just simply change the percent to a decimal. So we're going to plug it into your percentage. Then is going to be your rate times your base. So that's your formula you're going to use. So you change this to a decimal. 9% is going to become 0.9, and you're going to times that by the 1,400. Okay, pretty straightforward. If you do that, you're going to get 126. But the key thing you have to remember as you're reading through all of these, it says for 2 semesters, because sometimes they try to trick you a little bit. So you got to double that. So we would have 252 that he has to pay additional. So when you go through these, some of them seem pretty straightforward, but then they try to throw these little hop, skips, and the jumps in there for you. So you got to make sure you're reading them. The second part, part B, that if he works at a car wash earning $8 an hour and pays 15% in taxes, how many extra hours must he work to make up the increase? Round to the nearest whole hour. Well, you could do these a couple of ways. I'd like to deal with the money that he's actually taking home. So he's paying 15% in taxes, so we have to subtract that. So in a sense, he's only getting 85%. So if he has 100%, it's his whole $8, and he's losing 15% to taxes, he's only going to get 85% of his salary as take home. See how that works? So he's making 85% or bringing home of that $8. So let's see how much that really is. So if he's really taking 85%, so we'll change that to a decimal, 0.85, times the $8, he's only taking $6.80 home per hour. Okay, so now we go back up to our problem from before where his increase in tuition was 252. So he has 252 because we want to know how many more hours. So we have to set that up. So it's 252 divided by the 680. So we want to know how many hours. So we're going to divide that through with our calculator. 37.05. Okay, and they said round to the nearest whole, so it's 37 hours. So basically this is going to be 37 additional hours of work. So most of these in the book are pretty straightforward. They do throw a little bit of thinking into you, like this one where you had to subtract out the taxes to see how much he's actually taking home of his salary. And that's true for all of us. We get to pay the government a fair share of our earnings. So you just have to go through these, make sure you've got all the relevant information, plug it into the formula, and I think you'll be just fine.